This media is brought to you by Kalaboukis.
In the realm of tomorrow, where techniques mind, we ponder, we dream.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's great to finally meet you nowadays, because this is how we meet each other nowadays, through Zoom. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and your organization and what you're passionate about?
Sure. Well, Chris, it's great to be here. I love your podcast. It's so appropriate for the times.
Oh, thank
My
you.
name is my name is Kathleen, and I am the founder and CEO of a very unique staffing agency that was founded in Hawaii that is about high tech and high touch. We
So you
do
live in the best place on earth, basically.
well, what's wonderful is I live in two best places. I live in Hawaii and I live in the Bay Area. I'm actually up in Marin.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I get to be in amazing, beautiful Marin, and then I get to go back to Hawaii to work with my team. Lucky me.
Yes, that's like that sounds the best. I wish I had that life. One day, one day.
One day. Yeah, that's right. And also being in the high tech capital of the world, the Bay Area, and then being from the beautiful place Hawaii, which is so about high touch, we
Mm,
really get what we're doing viscerally. The high tech and the high touch, they go together. And we just
nice.
live and breathe that. And I'm excited to share a little bit about how we do that.
Fantastic. So is this your are you one of the founders of the company?
I am the founder, the
Oh,
only
you
founder.
you are the only founder. Wow, that's great. And how long have you been around?
Well, this company was birthed and grown out of my first company in 2015.
Hmm.
I started my first company, an event logistics company, in 2003, so over 20 years ago. And we grew very successfully, and I had over 150 staff. And then in about 2015, I was invited to bid on $1 million plus contract for the Hawaii Convention Center to provide
Ooh, I
all of
know
the
that
front of the
place very well.
hopefully fondly. It's a lovely place. It's an important place for groups, conferences to come from all over the world.
Oh
I
yeah.
was excited because at that moment we were just doing hospitality, because I had an event logistics company, over 150 staff. We did a really great job, and then we pitched and we won this bid. I didn't even have a staffing company at that moment. Once we won the bid, I was excited and then said, I need to start a
You're like,
staffing
oh crap,
company.
now I have to build a company.
My life. That is like I follow the breadcrumbs, as long as I put 100% effort and passion into what I'm doing, it all seems to work out.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love
Hmm.
it. That's the best kind of story. So you got the job, and then you said, okay, now I have to build a company around the job. So is like, how did you decide what direction to go in after that?
Well, I just decided to follow what I was doing right then and there, kind of be in the immediate. So we provided hundreds of staff for the convention center. And so my company was first just hospitality and really just gig work, because at the convention center, you don't really have steady work. It's like, okay, we have an event and we need
Yeah,
300 staff, right? So there was kind of like a very intense rise and fall of activity. And then
yeah.
we did other things in the community to support. And then the pandemic hit. And as a hospitality staffing company, that was the
Oh yeah,
bullseye.
that went from
And
here to here.
and then that was really quite an amazing experience because I was able to diversify. I
Mm.
quickly shifted and we had all of our hospitality staff become drivers of food boxes across the state and
Oh
working
wow.
with
How did you pivot so quickly? How'd you do that?
Well, my life has just been about pivoting. And so I brought a group of people together in my company and outside, and we just brainstormed. And literally within 3 weeks, I had stood up another company called Cow Box. And we took what we were doing with event planning in terms of events, and we put it all into a box in terms of the food. And then the staff that we had to execute events were now drivers that were driving these food boxes all across the island of Oahu. Oahu, and then even two neighbor islands. And then shortly after the pandemic, I sold that company that allowed me to survive for over 6 figures. So not bad.
Fantastic. That's great. And then,
Yeah.
did you sell it because, well, you had buyers, obviously, it came along, but would you have wanted to keep that going, or?
No, and the reason why is because I like to focus in on things. And when I have too much going on, that really, waters down my attention. And so just having two companies, a hospitality staff, or let me just say a staffing company that had now morphed into something else, which I'll get to in a moment,
Mhm.
and then my event planning company, those were the two that made the most sense for me. And
Right.
so selling the box that allowed me to survive was great. And I just, poured that money back into the company so that we could build.
Fantastic. No, I love that.
Mhm.
I mean, because it's like it's a true entrepreneur can see those opportunities and pivot and jump, as required, because you saw what was happening. You saw that there was a need and a demand, and you jumped on it. And that's exactly what people need to do, because there's so many entrepreneurs who are they focused on the exact one thing that they're doing. And when a pivot opportunity comes along, they go, well, I'm not interested in doing that. I'm interested in doing this. But this could be where the market's going. That's where your next business could be. And if you're not open to those opportunities, then they might pass you by.
Totally. And I just have this personality that's about the here and now, which is always a double-edged sword, right? It's a blessing in situations like that. And then it's, something other than that when it comes to kind of planning and strategizing. So I learned to plan and strategize, but I really love living in the here and now. And so I'm able to kind of absorb what's happening and then really get into being able to be present and then to be of service, because that high touch aspect of my company is really all about being of service, and with high tech it gets really exciting.
Hmm. Well, tell me more
Yeah.
about the company that you're with right now, or that you're running right now.
Yep. So my company, Aloha HP, we say we are hiring exceptional humans for exceptional companies, and that's really what it is. We do now three verticals as a result of the pandemic. We still do hospitality, so we find ourselves in hotels and also doing gig work, like with catering. And we do light industrial, which we really love.
Wow.
And we do admin, entry level admin. So those three verticals. And what has really happened in the last little bit here is AI is a really exciting part of our business. And I'll tell you why. So Aloha HP has a proprietary AI resume research tool, and
Mm.
it allows us to instantly analyze over 16,000 resumes to identify the best fit candidates for any given job. So within seconds, we're able to find the best candidates and then send them to our clients. And so we are able to do so much better in terms of immediate results for our clients as a result of this tool. So that's exciting in terms of like giving them the right candidates at the right time, because all three of our verticals, especially hospitality and light industrial, tend to be reactionary.
Mm.
I needed staff yesterday. And so
Yep.
for us to be able to use AI to help us to get immediate results in terms of sourcing, vetting, and then sending, that's cool. And then in addition to that, what we do with the high touch aspect of this is, first, we have some proprietary programs. The first one is called the Aloha HP Academy. So when someone is onboarded, they go through all of the important HR components required, but then they also learn how to deep breathe and meditate. That's part
Oh,
of their
nice.
onboarding process. It's really cool
I love
because
it. Because
most people,
you never hear about that. You never hear about those things in the processes. It's just like, oh, learn about the company, learn about our processes, but the wellness aspect, all of those things, they don't come into it. So I love the fact that you're bringing that in.
yeah, and you know what? What people don't know, they can't utilize. And so many people feel like deep breathing and meditation is for someone that has a lot of time on their hands, perhaps. I almost feel like it's like a luxury. And
Yeah.
we're dealing with people that are coming, into like it's very entry level work. And so they
Hmm.
might not have had this exposure. So for us to take them through an 11-minute deep breathing exercise, it very well could be the first time in their life. And maybe it's the last time, but at least they get exposed to it.
Yeah.
Because we have known scientifically that deep breathing and meditation helps to release stress, helps people to be grounded. Because when we send people to work in a company, we want their beingness to almost exceed their doingness. And
Yeah.
so we have these 10 golden rules of Aloha, which talks about them being on time, working collaboratively, having integrity with their work. And like they're not just like nice little slogans, like we mean that. And
Mm.
internally, we live and breathe that. So it's like holding ourselves accountable first, and then making sure that the people that come into our program are really adhering to those 10 golden rules of Aloha. And then when we transition them from our recruiters over to our staffing team, our staffing management team, we have people who escort these individuals to their first day of work and introduce them to their point of contact. And that might seem simple and that might not seem like a very good ROI, but it is very powerful in allowing people to make sure that they show up, because a lot of times people don't show up in these types of jobs, and it allows them to stick. So those are some high touch aspects of what we do in addition to the high tech part of how we even find people.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. I know my son, he got a job at Safeway at the lunch counter, and he said that in about a month, he was the senior person there. Everybody came and went. People wouldn't show up, or people would say they're going to show up and they didn't show up, and then people would like stay for a little tiny bit, saying this is no good for me, and go. And he became the senior person like right away. It's like there's definitely something needs to change in the recruiting and the onboarding to get people to understand what's involved in the job. And a lot of times, especially one of and I know in the hospitality vertical for sure, is that sometimes you're throwing people into high stress situations, right? They're dealing with people, they're dealing with complaints, they're dealing with a lot of stress like day one. So they really have to be resilient to be able to jump in and hit the ground running.
Totally. And that's why long deep breath for 11 minutes totally helps,
Wait a
right?
second, sir. I want to get you a new pillow, but just give me a second.
Yes, well, they don't have on their lunch break. No, you're absolutely right. It's amazing what these entry level positions people are thrown into. They
Yeah.
don't have the skill set. And so being able to be grounded and know that the staffing agency that sent you there has your back is really important, because we also do a first day and fifth day follow up with all of our staff. How is it going? Just to get a pulse and then to share that with this client. So there starts to be this partnership, this triangle of like, we care about our staff member. It's not just that because they're on the clock with you and we're making money, we're
Yeah.
going to forget about them. We're in this for the long haul with them.
Yeah, because it seems like a lot of companies are like that. They just basically they drop you into the soup and like swim, right? I mean, you don't get any kind of support. Like what made you decide to add that extra piece to your offering?
Well, I'd say just because when I thought about like what is our product is human beings. That's
Yes.
pretty amazing. I
Hmm.
mean, that's pretty awesome that I get that responsibility of putting hundreds and thousands of people into a workspace. And so think knowing that I'm a human, I thought, well, what would make it more sticky? And for me, just having that human touch and that collaboration to know that someone cared about me makes a very big difference. I too, when I first got out of college, went to a staffing agency, and it was just like you said, Chris. Uh, there you go. I never heard from them
They
again.
dropped you. They
And so,
dropped you into the deep end and expect you to
yeah,
swim.
yeah, and I do think like the trend that we are seeing, we are going to be seeing more use of staffing agencies, because I think that we've seen that already with post pandemic. To me, that's really exciting because it gives us the opportunity to be more of the cheerleaders or the vanguard for these people that we're putting into workspaces. That there's more of a responsibility, but also to me, it's like an excitement or a joy that we have the ability to not just have them go to that job and work, but that we are on this journey with them of evolution.
Yeah.
Because as we move forward and there's more automation, especially in hospitality and light industrial, we're going to see that part of our job is going to be putting people through certificate programs to help them to be retrained to be more like supporters, those who can literally be in, say, light industrial or hospitality, but they are the AI literate workers, right? They're the ones who
Yeah.
are kind of helping to support the systems. Um, and you still need that human touch there.
Yeah. And I mean, Dan Pink wrote a book, Free Agent Nation. I don't know if you read it back in 2002, and he talked about how that's where everyone is going. Everything eventually will be gig work, right? So there's not going to be the sort of standard career full-time job at a specific company for a certain amount of year. Yeah, that's going to disappear and everybody will become a free agent. But we're starting to see that now, especially after the pandemic, where gig work is exploding. But every job is going in that direction, and there's really no support system to help these people. They either have to do it themselves, but some people are not that entrepreneurial and they can't do it themselves, and they need that kind of support system.
Totally. I raise my hand because I'm not that type of person. I love tech. The ironic thing is, though, I'm not really, that's just not my forte. Fortunately, I have people in my company who that is their forte. What I love, though, is support.
Mm,
And so I feel like that is a very natural human thing to want, is to have people to support you. And I know there's some apps out there that do gig work. And what I have heard is that lack of human connection and support really demoralizes people who are in that realm.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that
And
loneliness,
the thing,
that's
it puts the responsibility, the onus for them to make those connections and keep those connections going on them. And sometimes it's a lot of cognitive work for some people, right? I mean, there's some people who are natural extroverts, entrepreneurs. They'll go out there and they'll do it and they'll make those connections in a second. But there's plenty of others who they really need that support.
totally. And I would say the majority of us need support, whether we
See,
admit
we
it or
all need
not.
them. We all need something. Some of us just won't admit it, right?
Right, exactly. I agree. So just to make it easy and part of the program that the support is just there. And that allows people to just breathe more easily. Because these days I feel like people feel more and more like
Yeah.
they're on their own. And yet, no, we're not on our own. We
Yeah.
just need to make it structured so that people know that the support is there.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I want to go back to one of the AI things you were mentioning earlier. And you probably heard of the controversy with Amazon and their AI and AI recruiting systems. They decided to take it down because it was showing bias. How do you
Mm.
deal with things like that in your AI recruiting piece?
Yeah, we are not Amazon, and I appreciate that in terms of showing bias. We are not at that point where we're having um, to grapple with that
Mm,
because we're in such a reactionary environment with hospitality and light industrial specifically. It's just like we need staff, and we
yeah,
can't find staff fast enough for them. So the bias is just not even a conversation that we're having in Hawaii.
right. Are you finding that so you're saying you're having trouble finding staff, and I know I hear that that's a problem anywhere, but are you finding there's a big disconnect between the skills that are out there and the skills that are required?
Well, a lot of our staff go into entry level work. I would say the disconnect is painting the picture because
Mm,
these are entry level jobs and people look just at the dollar amount. I'm going to be making $20 an hour or $25 an hour. What our team does really well at is show them what this could lead to because
right.
it's not just about the dollar, it's about the company that you're joining, it's about the ways that you can enliven your life by working with us in the volunteer programs that we have and the training programs that we have. So it's more that about like what's the long game here and not what's just the short $20 an hour benefit
Right.
you're going to get.
But it sounds like you do a better job of preparing employees for that role because I think that's what happens a lot of times is that people get the job, they look at the money, and they get into the job, and then they don't realize exactly what it all encompasses, and they go, "Well, I don't really like this," so they leave, right? And then I'm assuming you give them better prep for that.
Yeah, we do. We definitely tell them about the job, but then we also tell them about the culture of the company. And then we're also staying in touch with them as they start their journey, especially for the first 2 months where there's a lot of attrition. Because if someone's having an issue, we want to know what that is. They might not be comfortable enough sharing it with their supervisor, but they're going to share it with the staffing manager, and then the
Right.
staffing manager can kind of help them to get clarity or intersect with the supervisor at the company. And we found really good results with that, because again, that's another issue that's like the percentages are really in the basement as it comes to one, just showing up for the first day. And like you said about your
I don't
son at
understand why that's
Safeway,
such a challenge. I know when I was growing up, it's like you got a job, you be there. It's
I
like
know,
you
I
be there,
know,
you be on time, especially day one, right? Be there on time, day one. It's like
totally,
it's a culture thing.
totally.
I don't know what it is.
And I also think, though, it is us holding people accountable.
Yeah.
We have this punctuality agreement that says, and we have everyone sign it when they're onboarded. And again, we're not for everyone, but if you want to elevate your life and you want to have structure in place, people that are really rooting for you and pulling out the good in you, we require that they sign this, which is like you're showing up not just on time, but 10 minutes ahead of time. And
Hmm.
then we explain why punctuality is important. And then we look people in the eye and say, are you going to show up? I mean, it's as simple as that, because sometimes people just need the fear,
It's
the fear
funny.
to,
It's
yeah,
so funny to me that we have to do this now, that we never had to do it before, but now we have to do this.
yeah, yeah. Though I think it also gets back to care. I think these days so much is hands off. That nobody is really holding others accountable, and it's just that those who hold themselves accountable are rising. And my experience is that some people just need to know that someone is watching and someone cares and is holding them accountable. It's
And then
it's working.
eventually they hold themselves accountable, right?
Yeah,
So
eventually.
they're learning a life skill. It's great.
They are learning a life skill, and why not? And some people won't learn that life skill. I get that. I'm not a Pollyanna, but some people will, and they just need someone that cares. And that, the escort program that I talked about earlier in the conversation, I really love it because it really shows them we're not just talking and saying we care about you. We're showing them by actually arriving at 5 or 6 in the morning and escorting them to their job. That feels really good. It feels really
I
good.
love that idea. That's great. It's like why aren't other companies doing this? Why are people should learn from you guys.
Yeah. Well, we hope they do. And I love that we come from Hawaii, and
Mhm.
everyone, that I've talked to who has spent time in that very special place really gets this sense, the sense of aloha. It's not really something you can talk about. It's just something that you feel. And for us to be able to share that, just not in Hawaii, we're starting to expand to the mainland this quarter one, which is exciting here in California. And for us to really carry that sense of aloha with us, something that you really can't talk about, but you just feel it. That's my hope.
Are you
That's
gonna
totally
you
my
see
hope.
are you seeing a culture clash between Silicon Valley and Aloha because they're not quite the same? I mean, I think Silicon Valley used to be a lot more laid back. I mean, I've been here about 27 years or so, and things were different back then. So,
Mm.
do you see a culture clash between what you're bringing in from Hawaii and what's here?
Well, I would say I'm all about results, and the companies that I know here are all about results. So if I
Hmm.
can give them staff that show up and deliver, it doesn't matter that we're from Hawaii, because
Yeah,
at the end of the day, they want staff. They want staff that's going to show up, not just the first day, but stick around.
yeah.
And if I can do that, and I'm confident we can do that as we're doing in Hawaii, we're going to be good friends.
Fantastic. So it's time to think like a futurist. It's year 2035, 10 years from now. Where do you think your industry will be? Where do you think you will be? Where do you think we will be?
Okay. A couple of things. I think that AI and automation will reshape work, and people will still matter. That's super
Hmm.
important. We're going to make sure, or I just think it's going to happen, that it's going to require warm, intuitive, and empathetic human staff in addition to this whole automation that's happening.
Right.
Second, I think on-demand flexible work will be the norm. Like
Yeah.
we talked about that. It's going to
Oh
be the
yeah.
norm.
Yeah,
And
I think every single job is going to be like that. It's going to be like, okay, I feel like working, you tap on and you tap off, and people may have multiple jobs in multiple companies, but I think that's where we will be in 10 years, definitely much further along. But go ahead.
yep, yep. Yeah, and more control. So people will have more control over their schedules. And just like the AI tool that we're using right now, we're able to identify people that have those skill sets immediately that can go in and work that job and have the skills, the skills that match what they need.
Nice.
Though equally important to that, we need to make sure that the people that are going have a human aspect to them. Which I think is important. So the third thing that I feel in 10 years is going to be there is whole person staffing will become an industry standard. Because if we don't have this sense of humanness and empathy, and it's just about people almost becoming quasi robots within that AI system,
Yeah.
there's something that is so lacking that human beings that makes us special. So whole person staffing will become an industry standard, and we want to be and plan to be the leaders of that.
I love the name whole person staffing, because if you look at a typical resume, that's just one facet of an individual, right? You don't get the rest of it at all. So are you actually doing that right now, where you're pulling in more than just what you see on a typical resume?
Yes, and we do call it whole person staffing. And what I mean by like pulling those things in, it starts even with the onboarding, with the breath work and meditation, with the 10 golden rules of Aloha, really helping people understand that their beingness is as important as their doingness at the work that they're going to be doing. And then another aspect that we have when people do start working in these various companies that partner with us is we have a program called Best Self Through Service Volunteer. So we partner with nonprofits 4 times a year, and we invite all of our temp workers to come out with us to those nonprofits and do different service projects. So it's really allowing them to connect with each other outside of wherever they're working for us, and then allowing them to feel really good. They can also bring their family and friends with them. So those are just ways that are making people kind of feel more whole than just working, like having a relationship with us through a job to get a job.
Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, do you ever have, it sounds like, do you ever have situations, you must have situations where the person's hired on full time. Do they sometimes say, oh, I don't want to go because I'm just having so much fun with you guys?
Hired on full time, like we've deployed them to work full time for a company.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Another
then they
company.
decide, I'm going to work for this company, or the company gives them an offer to stay on full time.
Oh, yeah. Well, they can always come back and volunteer with us. So yes, they do. They do transition to be full time with that company. Though I'll say they do stick around and stay connected with us. Not all, but many of them do. And also because we do gig work. So they can work full time for that other company and then come back and work with us on the weekends at our stadiums, at our catering events, because we do a tremendous amount of gig work in the hospitality space.
Right.
So it's a cool way for people to augment their income and then also stay connected with us.
That's fantastic. I love that. I think everything's going in that direction. So I'd love to see more of this kind of stuff happening. This is great. So if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Yeah, best way for them to get in touch with us is through Instagram. So Aloha Hospitality Professionals is our handle. And then my LinkedIn is Kat-Lynn-Hertebis, or they can go to our website, alohahp.com, and then they can do old school and call us.
No way. You actually have somebody picking up the phone?
We will never, ever, ever take that away. That's so important for someone to say, Aloha, you have reached Aloha HP.
I love that. So I'll put all the links in the show notes, and we'll go from there. So thank you so much. It's been great. Lots of fun.
Chris, thank
I
you
love it.
so much. Take care.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Aloha.
Pixels and philosophies merge and mold, a future untold, unseen.